Sometimes I think that we're a little bit off base when we ask, "Are you ready?" Maybe we should be asking, "Are you scared?" I am. I sit in church and I look at the door to see who's coming in. I sit in the office and I look at the door to see who's coming in. I watch too much TV and I see too many things with the yellow tape, too many things with crying people, too many things about shooting. Our guest today has lived through that. Noelle Jones and Lee Guidry are from Italy High School. Noelle survived a shooting. Lee Guidry, her Civil Air Patrol commander, and also faculty member there, assisted in her survival. Thank God. We have them here to talk to us today. They're going to talk about not only the shooting, what they thought during it, what they learned after it. They attended a youth preparedness camp. I know of that camp, have known of it for years, and we're doing our best throughout FEMA Region 6 to build camps like it to better prepare folks. Today, we're going to listen to Noelle and Lee share their experiences before and after. I'm Bill Bischoff, Region 6 Community Preparedness Officer. Welcome to our podcast.
January 22nd, I was in my cafeteria, my very first day of Civil Air Patrol. First day wearing my uniform, I was going to get my stripes, right? I was going to get my stripes. I got those in the hospital. The next day, I don't remember it because I was very loaded up on morphine. But basically what had happened was I had a small conversation with my shooter. And then he stood up, turned to me and said, "I'm sorry, it has to end this way." And he did an open fire. I went outside and he stood over me. And then Guidry came out and talked to him and confronted him. And the shooter ran away. Guidry helped me from there. I was in the breezeway. The EMS got there. The troopers got there. And I'm very thankful that everybody was there that day. And then I was in a helicopter and was in a hospital. And then I fell asleep and woke up after surgery after 4 hours.
January 22nd, a little bit before 8 a.m., I was in the teacher's lounge and heard some noise. And honestly, I thought it was firecrackers. And being the good teacher I am, I was mad because I was going to have to spend my hour off dealing with that. And then I noticed I heard a lot of profanities being shouted and screaming and hollering. And I looked out the window of the teacher's lounge and I saw one of my cadets, Noelle Jones, laying on the ground with the assailant standing over her. And so I ran to her, had to run out the lounge, down a couple hallways and get into the breezeway. And then it was me, her, and the assailant. And the only thing I knew how to do was talk to him in normal tones like I'm talking to you. And finally, he turned around and ran away. And then I went up to Noelle and started providing first aid to her.
We first met Noelle and Lee at a youth preparedness camp in San Marcos, Texas, on the campus of Texas State University. The camp has been run by Texas School Safety Center for a number of years, and they do a great job. One of the things that drew us as emergency managers to you and Commander Guidry on the front end of this was realizing what you had already survived and the strength that it took to come in and do this. At the time that you attended this camp, you were just a few months out of this traumatic incident.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of the difficulties that you as a survivor had just attending the camp? And when I ask that, I'm asking it because there are traumas in this world, and everybody's got them one way or another.
Yes, absolutely.
So talk to us about the things, the kind of triggers that you had to go through, and whether it was better to do it when you did, or if you should have not done it.
Yeah. Well, for me, the main struggles was how loud the room would get, because I understand that, we're teenagers. We're going to want to have fun. We're going to want to, make those little beats that you do with the pen on the table, or, just drum your fingers on and make some noise and bang on the tables, because that's how teenagers are. We're wild. We're crazy. But I think what I've learned is to understand trauma more, because veterans, they can't handle loud noises. I still can't handle loud noises. And most of the triggers for me were loud noises. And that was very, very difficult. And then to recover from that so quickly, like how I have been, and then to walk up in front of everybody and be like, hey, look, this is the situation. You need to think about people now. And this is a CERT training program. We're not just dealing with, the physical attributes. We're also dealing with the psychological as well. And you have to be aware. And everybody there was so respectful about it. And they were like, okay, what triggers you so we don't do it? And sometimes they would catch themselves and be like, oh, I apologize. And they would go on doing something else that's like it, but it wasn't as extreme. And we did get into the topic of, shootings. And that was a little difficult for me, but I could handle it. It was just mainly the loud noises. But talk of like shootings and the shootings that we do know of and how extreme they are didn't bother me as much.
We're familiar, of course, with community emergency response training and what it brings. But you, having lived through what you've lived through,
yes.
What is it that you wish your school faculty, your colleagues in class, the staff, what is it that you wish they could have had before you went through what you went through?
I believe, I don't want to say better with triage, but at the same time I do, because with the whole situation, I believe everybody reacted in the way they needed to react and how they could have in that situation. But I believe what I learned at the CERT camp, you could have learned triage and how to keep everybody in more order and more relaxed, and where the right places to hide were and how to get out of there the quickest, and to have like a plan set and done before. I'm not saying that there wasn't one, because I can't answer that question. I don't know if there was one or not, because nobody's ever really talked to us about it, because it's such a small community. You never know what's going to happen. So we're basically just a lot more education on what they were trained to do in the first place.
So if that training is done in advance of an incident, I'm trying to think of what number one, you've got triage. So as you're going through your incident, I'm assuming other people are just pandemonium, moving out the doors.
Yeah, like the first responders couldn't get in because there were so many people crowded in one area, and then they were telling me how they would be driving down the road and have to stop because they almost hit kids just running everywhere. So evacuation and keeping everybody accountable would have been a much bigger deal, instead of like running people out left and right. I mean, yeah, it's an emergency situation, but you also need to make sure that everybody is accounted for. Well,
and until Mr. Guidry came to assist you, I don't know if there was much time in between where if there was time for somebody else to step in and be helping, or if that training would have helped at all.
Yeah. In that situation, I believe Mr. Guidry, if he didn't come, I feel like maybe nobody else would have, or if they did, they wouldn't have known exactly what to do.
Personally, under the circumstances, I think our school, with the people that were there around her, did the best they could do at that time. I think what I learned at the camp, first of all, one of the things I learned, even talking to other first responders, is there's no such thing as a perfect situation. It's not going to go specifically as a game plan or anything like that. But what I did learn, first of all, is there are people in different situations, emergency situations, where this knowledge comes in handy. And also in the training portion of it, especially in these high intensity levels, you get an idea who can work under that high intensity and who can't work under that high intensity. That's not saying one person is better than the other, but if I'm in an emergency situation, when decisions have to be made, I want that person I know that can handle those types of situations. That was a big thing I learned from it. Also, another thing I learned that other people really want to hear the story. It's not, I don't say it's my story, it's not our story, it's Noelle's story. I just happen to be a part of it. I think people really generally interested in more of this is the academic of what would happen. Here's a scenario. Well, then they could talk to people. Well, this is what happened when it actually happens to you. So I think that benefited others that they could hear the story from Italy, but I think it had benefited us because we could share our story, and it was kind of like a release for us, almost like a type of therapy, if you will, that we were able to get it out there and be able to keep talking about it and people see what a school is going through.
Since we've come back from CERT camp, basically we have done like little things like, okay, Guidry actually had like a student hide and then had the group go find her and help her and take care of her. And basically I think everybody feels a lot safer than before, because not only from the CERT thing that we've given recommendation on for safety, but in general, like the negativity feels gone there. I mean, we have our normal teenage drama. That's going to always be there, no matter how much we don't want it there. But I believe just everybody feels so much safer because of the things that have been put in place by what has happened and the things that we have learned from this camp. And we all know that there are people there prepared for what might happen.
I got sold on CERT. I think I could go out and be a CERT evangelist. I mean, I just enjoyed it so much just to see what the students learn from it. Still hearing them talking about it in little stories they still like to tell about it. And when you come back, to me, the best way to promote something is to get the people out there who've already been through it. Listen to them tell the stories of those who haven't been through it. And people are like, oh man, I want to go through that. I honestly think every school district, every community, even if you just need to stretch it out more, should at least have a CERT team, just a group of, volunteers that can step up to help their community in a time of need. Because I look at it this way, even if you're not an emergency responder or anything like that, something happens in your immediate community, you're involved. It affected you. So why not jump in there and help solve the problem that's going on?
What's your thoughts moving forward? I don't know whether we're still talking camp or whether we're talking just your own kind of mission. Do you have your own kind of mission other than continue to heal?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I want to be a voice for victims of anything, but mainly focus on victims of shootings because that's, I don't want to say my forte,
Yeah.
but
not something you wanted to sign up for.
No. Absolutely. I definitely never thought it would happen, especially at my school and mainly to myself because, it's like, yeah, that could happen, but never to me. There's never that possibility. When in reality, there's always that 50-50, like it's always going to be there. But I want to be a voice for victims that feel like they don't, like victims of rape and just abuse and just violence anywhere. But I mainly want to stick to, I don't want to sound rude, but I mainly want to stick to the problems here in our own country because that needs to be addressed. And I want to help mainly veterans because now that I have been shot and to know what it feels like and to know how painful it is to come back from that and how scary the world can be. Like, I've never been on a tour. I have no military experience, but in a kind of way, I understand, but I know I will never understand what they went through. And I also want to be a motivational speaker because I feel like we need some more of those that hit people my age that are closer to my age because, when you grow up and you're an adult and you're talking to the younger kids, sometimes it can be hard to hit them because, you've gone through what you've gone through and you learned how to get through it. But I believe that they don't make it to the point where, yeah, this is the struggle I'm dealing with right now, and this is how I'm going to get up from it. Now it's like, yeah, this is what I did to get over it. But I want to get down and dirty into the detail of how bad it was, but yet how great it is, how great it's going to be. So, and then I want to be a special ed teacher, and I want to do a minor in psychology. With that, it's going to be a lot of work, but I love challenges. And I want to do psychology because of the fact that my psychological stuff now is very difficult to understand myself and as a book-wise. Like, there's a book definition like, oh, PTSD, this is what you go through. When in reality, there can be so much more. And I also want to learn how the brain works. So I think
Or
it
doesn't.
would be very fun. Yeah, or does it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your own, I guess, experience, your own perspective now is that PTSD takes many different forms.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's probably where you're empathizing with those veterans. And some of which, the interesting thing there is some of the veterans would be looking at you the same way. Thank God I've never gone through what she's gone through.
Actually,
I hope never to.
At CERT, there was one veteran, and he, I believe I gave him a hug. I don't exactly remember. It's like in the back of my mind. He said, I have been a veteran. I am a veteran, and I have served for so-and-so years, and to me, you are my hero. I almost broke down in tears because a person that is my hero just called me his. And I'm about to start crying now because that is like, wow. I didn't know I inspired people that much or people like that. And I was shocked in a good way. And I felt so much more confident in myself. And I found a new confidence in me that I'm pushing forward with.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for going to Youth Preparedness Camp.
Yes, thank you for having me and giving me that opportunity.
Thank you for surviving.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for being willing to do what you're doing
Yes.
and continuing to do it. And I know that's one of the things that drew us to you and to Commander Guidry there at the camp was the strength that we were witnessing. Strength coming back for the first time, really out of home after that incident, and surviving and just going ahead and plunging forward in life.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It'll never be easy. But you don't make it look easy.
Oh, no.
But you make it look like it can be done, and that
Yes.
it's been done, and it's continuing to be done.
Yes,
So
because-
thank you for that. For more information or to send your youth to Youth Preparedness Camp or start your own Youth Preparedness Camp, please contact your local, state, or tribal emergency management agency and talk to the folks that handle community preparedness. Feel free to contact me if you need some assistance. I'm at bill.bischoff, BISCHOF, at FEMA.DHS.gov. Thank you very much. Stay prepared.